Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Backtrekking, the podcast where we look back at the real-world inspirations behind classic episodes of Star Trek. I'm one of your hosts, Caliban, and every day should end in eels.
No!
And I'm joined on this episode by my co-host.
That was the one I was going to do. I'm Gooey Fame.
And we have returned to explore the stories behind your favorite Trek shows. And today we return to the Trek versus Trek formula as we look at 2 episodes of separate Star Trek series that are chiefly concerned with a trial, and specifically an unfair one. It's TNG's The Drumhead and the Lower Decks episode Veritas.
Yes, is there an episode of Lower Decks that it's not just a straight up reference to something else, like even the overall plot? I guess that's fine. That's what the show's all about. So
at this point, though, and Lower Decks, is steering into it, but can you do an episode of Star Trek that isn't somehow a reference to or connected to? Yeah. As we get deeper and deeper into this, that's something that all writers of new Trek media have to face. Lower Deck steers into the skid. They've done a couple things like they did the holodeck episode where it was like, a movie, and it was specifically, the show is always kind of like sending up TNG, but it's specifically sending up like the Star Trek movies and the storytelling in Star Trek movies and how it's different from Star Trek TV shows.
Right, yeah.
There's the one episode with the freaks, all the people that get turned into cubes or salamanders or whatever. They've had some original ideas for sure.
Yeah, at least, and they come up with like funny twists, like funny ways to like twist or be like, isn't that kind of goofy? Like even if it is a plot they're kind of reusing, like they kind of have like a spin or like something to go off of it. So
we'll talk about that a little more in a bit. This is the part where we usually talk about the news in Star Trek. And I actually, sometimes we also talk about video games. And I wanted to mention really briefly that I was taken aback to discover that a couple days ago, China decided there'd be no more new video games in China. Just stop making them. No
new games. Okay.
Stop doing it. Yeah.
I saw the thing about like the limiting phone games or something.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago they said, nobody. Obviously, video games are corrupting our youth, and so we're going to limit everybody to 3 hours a week playing video games. And I have no idea how they plan to enforce that. And then maybe they realized that they couldn't enforce it, and so they the company Tencent revealed after a meeting with government officials that China would ban new video games. So no more video games.
Well, okay. A good thing Tencent, they got a lot of things they do, so good for them.
Yeah. I read that the article that I read said that they essentially in one day lost 6 Bethesda's worth of value.
Sure.
In investor lack of confidence. So they've got the money. I'm sure they'll be okay, but it's like, oh boy, what do we do now? Obviously, we have to try and fight this, but now what?
Well, that's interesting. I wonder what's the thinking here? Is it like, do they look at, like what's going on elsewhere and go like, we don't want to be like that, I don't know what's going on.
I have no idea. Obviously, this is an overreach. By the Chinese government. I don't know what they think that this is going to solve. I don't really know what they thought the problem was in the first place, and what they would determine, a corrupted youth to be. But clearly they feel like video games are not contributing to the health of the young people in their society.
I wonder if it's like we get to do like a trial run of a lot of stuff they're going through.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was thinking about this because they've kind of been, obviously, they're a communist country, although I know communists who would argue they're not fully communist, but they have been kind of on fast forward since the late 40s, right? So as they have developed They went through a lot of tough times, and they're starting to develop industrially. Now they're they're doing what America did post Industrial Revolution. They're doing it on fast forward.
Right.
So now they've hit the Jack Thompson period of their society, and maybe because they're on fast forward, they'll blow through it really fast. Who knows?
Yeah. I was wondering if they're like, maybe we just like stave off some of that stuff, like cut it off before, like instead of having like the congressional hearings where like Joe Lieberman is like listing off fatalities or whatever.
Yes.
Like we just say, before we get to that, we just ban video games.
Yeah. Some Chinese attaché is going to be real mad. He's been all night putting together a list of fatalities in games. And then they went, actually, we're not going to do this. Forget it. He's like, ugh.
We don't want that to end up in a cringe compilation.
Yeah, right. Exactly. With subtitles. Yeah. So who knows? For all the freedoms that Chinese people have begun to experience as the 21st century has dawned, it's clear still that culturally their freedoms are hampered. And of course, the cinema is, of course, another element of this. It was announced recently that because of some comments from 2017 by the star of Shang-Chi, it looks like there won't be a Chinese release for Shang-Chi, which is a real shame because it's a really fun movie and it, in its own way, resembles a modern Chinese blockbuster. I think they would have really liked that movie, but they're not going to get it. And they're also not going to get The Eternals because the director of The Eternals, Chloe Zhao, has been very outspoken about, the current Chinese government. And so Marvel's big 1-2s are not, the films are not coming out over there. Yeah. And the thing that Simu Liu said was not even like Chloe Zhao has like actually spoke out against the government. And Simu Liu in an interview said like, well, I'm Canadian, but I'm also Chinese and I grew up here and my parents told me that, there's starving kids in China or whatever. Like something that we all heard when we were growing up.
Right.
But apparently like China's like, ooh, no. We need to get John Cena to help him apologize.
Yeah, it was a great apology by Cena. Nice job. Yeah. I mean, I see that stuff and I'm like, okay, they have their like, crazy psychotic film moments or whatever. And it's like, we go through that stuff here too. So it's like,
yeah,
we go about it in a different way or whatever, but like,
yeah,
I just think about all the stuff of like, I don't know, like I think about like the Dixie Chicks or something like that,
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure. We don't have like you don't see it as much of like a government like mandate on like you can't talk about this, but you'll just see like people like absolutely lose their mind if someone says something that's especially in like that era,
Yeah. So, well, again, maybe that's what they're going through right now. Maybe Simu Liu is the Dixie Chicks of China.
It's just like the late 90s, early 2000s there right now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they're talking about violent video games and GTA and stuff.
Careful what you say. Yeah. It's weird because it puts Disney in a weird position that I don't think they're exactly suited for. Like, they are a corporation. They're capitalists. And so you never want them to lead the way ethically. But who knows? I mean, they really can't stand. They're leaving billions of dollars on the table, right? By their products not being there. Also, Chinese people don't like Star Wars. It's just not culturally something that they like. So they've lost that too. So I could see a weird situation where Disney, a company that's does all kinds of bad things and is trying to screw their actors out of money, actually being like the leader in like being a cultural ambassador to China, trying to get them to flip and be nicer just so they can sell their stuff there.
I can see that, or I can see them kind of
make them work for us. That's what I say.
Yeah, I can sort of see them like not bending over backwards, but trying to like appeal to them, like getting what's his name to apologize or something like that, Because
I suppose hopefully they'll take a more a route with more integrity than just I'm sure Simu Liu's got a couple unanswered messages on his machine saying like please apologize, but hopefully they could just say to China, hey, lighten up.
Yeah, I feel like you already see like movies where it's like they've kept like it's like low-key gay characters where they can like edit that stuff out for like Chinese release. Like they're already kind of like catering to that kind of stuff because it makes money. So I don't see how this is totally different, except for it's like a real guy who said something in real life. But I don't know.
It doesn't. I don't expect Disney to solve this to anybody's satisfaction. But they'll probably end up apologizing for the Winnie the Pooh thing. But who knows?
Sorry, let's talk about a character.
Let's talk about actual Star Trek news. And Star Trek Day was last week. I'm sure you knew about that.
Yeah.
And because of Star Trek Day, there was a couple different panels and some different events, and they ended up announcing a lot of information. And we got quite a lot of information about the Strange New Worlds show, which of course is coming out next year in 2022. And we found out that, before we had a cast list, a bunch of actors, but we didn't know who anybody was playing. And now we know who pretty much everybody in the show will be playing. And the results might surprise you.
Oh, okay, hit me.
All right, let's go to the graphic. Jess Bush, one of the actresses, is playing Nurse Christine Chapel. Oh. And another actor named Babs Osulamokun is playing Dr. Mabenga. And Celia Rose Gooding is playing Cadet Neoda Uhura. So 3 characters from the original series will be on Strange New Worlds.
Okay, that's kind of neat. That could be fun.
It could be fun. I have questions. I have a lot of questions. So you're telling me, I don't know how old Chapel was in TOS. I know that Majel Barrett was probably in her mid-30s. Maybe Chapel was the same. Definitely dating age, or TV dating age. But does that mean that she's been on, because this is like 10 years before TOS, right? Or at least a good handful of years before TOS. So she's been on the Enterprise this entire time. Is she like a baby nurse who eventually gets up to a certain level?
Probably.
If I was Dr. Mabenga, I'd be mad because I don't know if he's the CMO right now. Maybe they'll bring one of the pilot doctors on, but he's on the ship for 10 years, and then McCoy comes in and is like, okay, well, I'm your boss. And it's like, what the hell? I've been on the ship for 10 years.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it'd be a baby doctor too.
Maybe he left for a while and came back or something like that.
Oh, he had a Crusher moment.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he went off to say Moria early fired him, and then he got rehired later on. And it's just interesting to see Cadet Uhura. She'll be, literally coming out or still in the academy, I guess, on her cadet cruise on the Enterprise. Could
be cool, or could be cool, could be stupid.
Everything could be cool or stupid. Yeah, we're holding our breath.
I mean, yeah, so far the way things have gone, it's just like, remember this guy? So I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. There's an actor named Bruce Horak who's playing Hemmer. Hemmer is an Andorian, but he is a white Andorian on the Anar that we see in Enterprise. Those creatures are Andorians, but they're a subspecies that are blind and telepathic. And get this, Horak himself is a visually impaired person who is a painter and visual artist as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they're going for that, like, oh, you want like people who are the thing in the roles? All right, we got a blind guy to play this blind alien. So they're really going for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Like,
yeah.
I guess we'll see, because I feel like it's interesting to see. Like, I think it's something like Dax or whatever, who a lot of people like kind of really were drawn to as like, okay, this can be kind of also viewed as like a reference to like things that like trans people go through or whatever. And then now with like the Discovery, like now like reapplying it, but now like kind of with that knowledge now added to it, like we have. Yeah. So I guess that it's like, it's interesting to me when it's like it becomes like almost like very literal, and like what that means. So I guess, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. If you want to see maybe is the wrong verb, but like if we wanted to have like a blind character on the show, we could, have Geordie LaForge, I guess. But yeah, in this case, they've actually got like an alien who is blind. And so you're kind of getting like the blind experience, but we also put our little sci-fi twist on it, which is what Star Trek has always done.
Yeah, I guess I think it's cool. Interesting is because like I guess I don't know much about these like sort of Andorians, but like they're I don't know. It's not gonna. I guess what could be cool about it is it's probably not gonna tell like the same old, like maybe even tired, like blind, stories about blind people that I'm sure some people are probably sick of hearing about, like in particular blind people, like kind of those, like now we have this character who it's like that's just a part of who they are, and it's not like we're not going to get the Geordi episodes where he's like, I wish I could see,
right. But also Geordi is empowered though as a character. I'm sure that blind people, however they enjoy the show, are like the fact that Geordi was born blind, but he's can go on to be the chief engineer. So I'm looking forward to that. Here's another announcement that we got. The actress Christina Chong will play Lan Noonien Singh. That's Lan Noonien Singh.
Oh.
Not Khan Noonien Singh.
So is that like one of the ladies?
We don't know, because the thing about Khan is that in Space Seed, which takes place, 8 to 10 years after this, they find Khan and they go, oh, isn't this a Hitler guy from the 20th century? So 8 years before Space Seed, it's just like if, you met somebody whose last name was Hitler and you're like, whoa, and no relation. You're like,
that would be funny if it had nothing to do with it at all.
No, I'm sure it will have something to do with it.
Yeah, right.
And, she'll be, a descendant of his, or she'll be, a genetically engineered person like he was. But yeah, it's interesting to try and prequel. Maybe this is connected to the current prequel show that they're thinking, or that too. Yeah. What they want to, it's sort of a midquel between Arik Sung and also Khan, and then also Noonien. Yeah,
this one I'm more comfortable saying sounds stupid, but
well,
we'll see.
Well, there's a lot of places they can go.
Sure, yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Like I said, no release date, but it will definitely be coming out in 22. Discovery, we didn't get a new trailer or anything that I know of, but we did get a release date. Discovery Season 4 will be coming out on the 18th of November of this year. And then we did get a new Picard trailer. Did you get to see the Picard trailer?
I think so. I'm trying to remember. Actually, I don't remember.
Nazis. Did you see Nazis?
Nope, I did not see Nazis.
Okay, you haven't seen this one. Well, not exactly Nazis, but we see a Nazi-esque kind of environment, and Picard and other characters in these kind of Nazi-esque uniforms, which Enterprise did it. Enterprise already did it. Time travel causes alien Nazis. But yeah, it looks like a lot of it is set in the 21st century. And an eagle-eyed viewer... An eagle-eyed viewer caught a screen grab that showed that there's a sign that said Rules for Sanctuary District. So a lot of fans think that they will try to address the DS9 episodes past tense 1 and 2, which of course are set 3 years from now. And so
like, we got to figure it out.
You guys, full mouth, huge bite. I wonder what they're going to do with this. Is
that a precedent they've done before? Like, I don't think in like Voyager they addressed like where Khan was when they went back to the 90s.
Oh yeah. The timeline doesn't work at all. They're just hanging out on the Malibu beach and they're like, oh yeah, that's right. The genetic Superman is our dictator. I know in extended media, they've kind of retconned the eugenics war to be kind of a secret war. That's more about like people jockeying for influence and having like a network of spies and things like that, and not necessarily just totally ruling it. But no, they haven't. I would have loved to. That would have been a great Voyager episode.
Yeah, like what's Khan up to? Let's check in with him.
Yeah, we'll just go check out after we're done with Sarah Silverman. We go check out Khan.
Okay, I looked at the trailer while we were talking, and everyone looks nice. I was sound off, so I got visuals. Okay. And I'm just like, yeah, everyone looks nice.
This is a hot cast.
Like, yeah, Q's looking good.
Yeah, and of course Q's
he
back,
aged well.
Do you think that Q will fix Picard? You know how Picard's a robot now? Do you think that he will make Picard a real boy again and definitely make a Pinocchio joke?
Will he
Because that was like, in my opinion, that was like a misstep of the end of Picard season 1, because you've got an actor who, you know, God forbid, hopefully we've got years and years left with him, but he's not going to be around forever. So why make the character immortal? I know they say, oh, well, you're not immortal. Your body will, you know, die eventually. But I mean, you made him a robot. Why bother?
That was stupid. Yeah, maybe.
He's on fire today. He's coming.
I'm just calling things stupid. Yeah.
Stupid.
This is some like really high criticism I'm doing here.
Well,
I think I don't know. Will he get a real heart?
Ooh, yeah, maybe he'll give him a real body, real heart.
Yeah, why not? I don't know. I think that would also be kind of silly to just be like, yeah, we're reversing that. I think they should make a season where Picard begs Q to kill him.
Please, I'm a robot. I can't die.
I lived way too long.
Well, fingers crossed that we'll get that. Picard comes out in February of next year. And then Star Trek Prodigy has released 2 different new looks at the show. They released a video, which is the opening sequence, essentially, of the show, and then a new story trailer that gives us a closer look at the new series. And I gotta say, it looks pretty great.
Yeah, I saw some of the image from it, and it's kind of cool. Like alien, I don't know, unique aliens are cool. That's what I dig. I guess that it's like doing something that you can not only do in the animated form, but it's just much more easier to do.
All new aliens, and it looks like I'm trying to think. This isn't a very Trek type story, but I mean that's good. These aliens, whoever they are, find this ship, which is a Federation ship, the USS Protostar, and then they use it to escape. You know, somebody's coming after them, and presumably will laugh, live, and learn throughout the galaxy as they flee this guy. It gives me, I don't know if you're familiar with the sci-fi series Farscape, but it gives me Farscape vibes.
No, I've heard of it. I've never seen it though. But yeah, it looks cool. Like that art style's neat.
Yeah, and then of course they've got Janeway, who I assume is like, you know, an emergency command hologram or something like that. You know, the sort of Siri or the OS for the ship, because she's like, oh, you've got a lot to learn as cadets. Yeah,
so is she gonna like train them?
Yeah. But if she doesn't get like sassy on that, I don't want her to just be like nice mom. She's got to be mean mom sometimes. She's the mom that pulls into McDonald's, orders the coffee, and then drives off.
I think because if I'm thinking like the Doctor in Voyager, like he isn't just it doesn't seem like he's just programmed to be like subservient. You know, he has like he like smack talks them and stuff like that.
Well, the guy he's based on is a prick, right? And they couldn't iron all of that out. So I'm not saying Janeway's a prick, but she's certainly strident, and I'd hate if we totally lost that. Or maybe she could go full the Thaw hologram on the kids. Be afraid.
She's like, you're not supposed to have this ship, and she just kills them all.
Yeah, one episode where they have to, they're fighting against her because her program is corrupted or something.
That would be cool. Evil Janeway hologram. Oh, yeah.
Well, we'll find out soon enough, because that comes out October 28th.
Wow, okay.
I see there are a lot of Discoverage episodes in my future.
Are you going to be okay?
It's a whole second job, but we do love doing it.
Yeah.
And I guess since we're doing a plug anyway, we have a live show on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central, where we talk about that week's episode. And I hope they keep releasing on Thursdays. Maybe they'll release on different days. But so far, we're talking about Lower Deck Season 2 on Thursday nights.
Yeah. That was fun being on there. That was cool.
Yeah, we'll have you on again for sure.
Yeah.
I know you want to see all those dumb things.
This is stupid.
This is so stupid.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to our featured subject for this week's episode. The utopian ideals that are present in Star Trek make the Federation seem like a pretty great place to live. After all, humans and alien rights are guaranteed and protected, and everybody can live without the specter of discrimination and racism affecting their lives. However, not every race in the galaxy is part of the Federation, and though Starfleet and the people of the United Federation of Planets would welcome cooperation and comedy with civilizations like the Klingon or the Romulan Empire, the divisions that exist often lead to mistrust and suspicion and can cause some of the Federation's finest minds to forget the lofty principles on which the Federation was founded. That's the conflict at the heart of the 4th season TNG episode, The Drumhead.
A mysterious accident uncovers sabotage on the Enterprise.
The Federation does have enemies. We must seek them out.
A ruthless interrogator stops at nothing to find a traitor.
I'm going to get to the heart of this conspiracy.
I'll fight it.
And Captain Picard becomes the target of a Starfleet witch hunt.
I brought down bigger men than you, Picard.
Justice hangs in the balance on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Drumhead.
The Drumhead. This comes at an interesting time because this came out, I suppose, in like the early 90s, right? Maybe 90, 91. You know, we talked about the Salem witch trials previously on the show when we talked about magic. What was it?
The Magics of Megas 2 or whatever.
The Magics of Megas 2. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a similar situation where you've got a character who is not involved in something. It gets wrapped up in this thing that's kind of bigger than them, and just totally gets swept up in this sort of fervor, this kind of like Red Scare like paranoia.
Yeah. That's totally what I went to right away. Was like because we've covered it before, but I guess obviously too because I always think of like a lot of TNG plots, like outside of your typical Star Trek, like we're referencing World War II, like there's a lot of like Cold War, type stuff. Mm-hmm. So I sort of thought about that sort of thing too, which I thought was interesting to see that sort of thing here, where like it's kind of over at that point. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean it's almost literally over with the coup in Russia and everything else. This did come out in early 1991 is when it was filmed. So this is all actually happening while they're making this. Star Trek loves its trials, and Jonathan Frakes, of course, directed this. And for the trial scenes, he specifically was trying to kind of reference shots or cinematography from movies like Judgment at Nuremberg, which we talked about on the show as well, and the Caine Mutiny, and just using similar cinematic language to give this idea of like oppression and paranoia. Yeah,
it definitely comes across. There's a few kind of, I guess, inspired, even though maybe he's going for something that he's definitely inspired, I guess, by other stuff. But that's Frakes. He's a student of the game,
Yeah, he really is. I don't know why he can't do movies. I mean, he certainly has been successful and well loved as a TV director, and he's done a couple movies. But I don't know what it was.
Is it just like he found his lane and he's like, I'm just gonna stay in this lane?
I guess, like he did, a couple Star Trek movies, and then he did like one or two non-Trek movies. But yeah, I don't know. Guys, he's good what he does.
Yeah, he's solid, because not only is it like he has the, I'm gonna reference, like this is a trial thing, I'm gonna reference this stuff, but I always too feel like he's there's also feel like he does a good examination of like past Star Trek, and is good at like taking markers from like previous Star Trek things and repurposing them, like just, I don't know, just like minor shots. Like I just think he makes like a really solid, he just knows what works about Star Trek, Yeah, he gets it.
You mentioned the end of the Cold War, and we were talking about the fall of the Soviet Union. I think that this episode is really interesting because it really prefigures things that we would go through later in the future. Picard at the end of the episode talks about the the right climate in which paranoia can flourish, spreading fear in the name of righteousness. And we would see, anti-Muslim sentiments, after like the Oklahoma City bombing, of course, after 9/11 in the last 20 years that we've all lived through. And the idea of taking something and just making assumptions and making racist assumptions and, ending up in a 20-year war in Iraq and Afghanistan, because that's just what somebody drummed up, fear and discrimination, and then used it to their own political ends. This is like 1991. This is coming off the 80s. We all got, leg warmers full of Coke and we're having a good time, right? There's nothing, there's nothing for us. There's nothing that this would map onto except for the lessons of history, Nuremberg and all that stuff. So I just think it's really interesting that like this has a lot of application today, when all those bad things I mentioned were in the future, for this episode.
Yeah, that's why 91 is kind of an interesting, it's like an interesting time for it, because it's like a few, like obviously there's a lot of, bad stuff going on under the hood of America at that time. But like, the typical like paranoia is that I guess there's always a little bit of that in our society, but like we're just divorced from those in that period. It's kind of a good feelings time.
It reaches back to like the House of Un-American Committee's hearings and Red Scare trials. What are you now, or have you ever been friends with a Romulan? That sort of thing.
What's interesting I feel like in Star Trek though, what's interesting is it's like they're always kind of trying to reference, stuff like sometimes Starfleet, it's not always, but sometimes it's a stand-in for America or whatever. But like in Starfleet, what's interesting is like they have similar things happen, but like almost always like you can almost assume the person is doing it out of like good or like what they perceive as good, I guess. Like, I think of when they like tried to coup Starfleet in Deep Space Nine. It's like that guy, he was like, you really get the sense of like, he's not like actually that bad of a guy. Like he was just wrong. Where it's like, I don't know, in my opinion, a lot of the people who are doing that stuff in real life, like are like demons who just don't believe in good. Like they just want to, they have a different agenda, I guess we could say, whether it's like a financial or whatever, like, but it's not like, oh, they took their good feeling a little too far,
Yeah, I think that you rarely see anybody who is acting completely out of self-serving malice. There's the famous thing about not having any conflict in Star Trek because all of our people are perfect and they're all going to help each other. And I think it's to Trek's credit that they've found ways to take that idealism and curdle it or misdirect it so that you've got. Look, I can't remember names of real people in my life, so I'm not going to remember the names of all these characters. But O'Brien's former commander, who the Cardassian. In The Wounded, or like Bernie Casey in DS9, who runs off with the Maquis, or like you mentioned, the guy that tries to coup Starfleet, or even Admiral Satie in this episode, who thinks that she's, chasing down Romulan spies, and she's just really ruining everybody's lives. I guess, I don't know. I've been dancing around this. I don't like this episode very much. I don't think it does a very good job. And we can get into it, but I don't think it does a really good job. I think that its premise is great. And I think that, like I said before, I think it's a story that has historical resonance. And I guess I'm glad it exists. But I don't think that it is executed super well. And one of those reasons is that I just don't believe that Satie would do this. We don't know enough about Satie. Or aren't given enough about Satie to know why she is going off the rails like this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we get the one scene with her and Picard where they're drinking the tea and she talks about how, her father was, a judge and all of his children, like, he drilled them on like matters of jurisprudence and ethics.
That was enough for me when she was talking about their little debates. I was like, oh, they're just like weird debate nerds. Like, of course.
Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah. And also, like, there's a feeling of superiority that she has. There's no way that she could be wrong. But, like, she's, like, so old and she's done this for so long. Like, is there, I don't know, is there a precedent for, like, why won't Stephen Breyer just retire already so we can replace him? You know, when you've been at the helm of the Supreme Court for years and years and decades, you're like, well, I know what's right. I'm probably fine. Yeah. And the guy's going to die, when we have a Republican president, and then we're all screwed. I guess I could see that, but like just the little conversation about that. And then there's a brief mention, I think in the opening, that she was instrumental in like uncovering the alien invasion conspiracy of the first season. So it's like, wait a minute, you yada yada the best part. Like what was the legal aspect of them stopping the throat bugs? Do you know what I mean?
I thought they just had to shoot that guy in the
Picard
stomach.
and Riker just shot that guy, right? But apparently maybe the scene where all the captains meet and they tell Picard about this, maybe she was behind that somehow. So it's like, that's really interesting. So if we saw that, you can infer that the stakes were super high there and she got a win with that. It's like Rudy Giuliani, right? Rudy Giuliani, not a great lawyer, not a great person, we now know, but he was a guy who was the mayor of New York during 9/11, and he, took on this mantle of like, look, we're New York strong, we're going to recover from this, and he kind of kept the city together. And then being Times Man of the Year for 2001 corrupted him to the point where he'll just do anything now to, support his own goals and stuff like that. So if we saw more that she was super instrumental, she was the hero of the throat bug conspiracy, I feel like I would have believed more, because otherwise she just comes off as just some like, shrill old lady.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it sucks too that we see this. It's one of the only like women that we've seen in such a high position of power. Like she's basically retired. She's like an admiral emeritus.
She's hanging. Yeah.
And she's like a daddy's girl that like Picard has to smack down. Like I find that disappointing.
Yeah, that's my read on Giuliani was that he's always been like a monster, and we just kind of
he's never been like a great person. Yeah. But he was thrust, like history does sometimes. He was thrust into this position where he had to lead, and he did.
That would be a great. Yeah, it's just I think going sort of to my point earlier, it's like it would be like a lot more believable if we were just like uncovering this about her, but like the way they've presented Starfleet so far, it's like you can't really believe that there's all
the admirals are terrible.
I guess they are like in a lot of episodes, but really it's more just like they're misguided, where it's like she's straight up evil. At least it becomes, or like she's like accidentally evil.
She she thinks that she's on the right side, and like I said, or like we have both said, in 1991, you might be like, okay, I kind of remember the Red Scare or whatever, but like in later years, it's like Dixie Chicks, Freedom Fries or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, there are people like that. Like we deal with people like that every day, but I just don't know in this story if there's enough at stake to make it work. And part of that, sadly, is that people forget that this is a low-key Worf jam. Worf is like a big part of this.
It was what I was thinking.
And I think if it had focused on Worf more, almost specifically, and the idea that he is a guy who is a man of two worlds and is basically out of one world, and specifically because of this Romulan thing. And there's that great scene with the Beta Z where he kind of is like, you know what, that's not a problem. We're going to let you be on the team anyway. We don't focus on, that explains why Worf is so into this, because unconsciously he is looking for redemption, for him and his father. And I think that if we had focused on him getting sucked into this, and then at some point realizing, well, wait a minute, this has gone way too far. And then he's the guy who's like, look, we need to shut this down. That would have been a lot cooler. But, we've got to give Patrick Stewart his big speech at the end.
Yeah, Picard gets to kind of like, he gets to also talk Worf down a little bit. Talk down
to
Worf.
He does.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And I don't know, I don't feel like, I guess this is only season 4 Worf, but the Worf I know wouldn't need that. I do like how he Klingon cops the guy at the beginning though. Like
that was sick. Yeah,
the guy's like yelling at him, and then he's like trying to bribe him, and then he gets him in his room, and it's just like, bam! All right, this is what's going to happen. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, this Worf was the best part, and it's great because it's like the same thing happened. Our last Trek on Trek was the best of both worlds, and it was like Worf had these low key great parts that really sold the episode. And this was even more so. So I don't know. I kind of worked.
If Ron Moore had written this instead of Jerry Taylor, it would have been a Worf.
A Worf ep, yeah. I can sort of buy what's going on because I feel like it's just like you can see the tensions have risen. We've had the Borg attack, and like I don't know, Starfleet at this point it has almost like this it sort of makes me think of like the Jedi in the prequels, where it's like they've gotten so almost like overconfident in like their ability to police the globe, and I guess that's sort of, or like the galaxy, and it sort of makes me think of I guess America too, like just what do you like imperial hubris or something, you know?
Yeah, America has no one to answer to. I mean, they absolutely do, all of humanity, but they don't feel like they do. And what's interesting about this arrangement is that, Picard is the law. He is the guy, when the Enterprise is just doing its duties and is out in space. But now we've got a situation where Picard has to answer to somebody else. And so all he can do is just say, you should really stop this. Like, I can't just order it to be stopped, but you ought to quit this. And it isn't until we get the High Admiral of Security or whatever who comes and sits in. It doesn't even say anything, and then he just leaves.
That was pretty great.
Okay, I guess her power is broken at that point. So there are terraces or sort of like levels of power. We've already done this one too, but there is a Battlestar Galactica version of this episode.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, there's an episode called Litmus, and in it, something similar happens. I know that you're not totally not familiar with the show, as we established when you watched one episode of it for me. But on the show, they're essentially the last humans in the universe. They're on this ship, and the Cylons, the bad guys, can look like people. So sometimes people on their ship, they're being literally infiltrated. And so it's kind of a reverse in that the TNG episode, sure, the Romans are a problem, but they're not everywhere, and they're seeing them everywhere. In the BSG episode, they can really be anywhere. And so there's this one thing happens, like a bomb gets planted, and it's all because a person like left their post to go like get some. And so they end up lying about that because they don't want to get in trouble for not being at their post, and they don't want to expose the relationship they're having. And then the Captain Adama, or Admiral Adama, appoints this functionary to head up the investigation. And the functionary ends up being drunk on power and calling more and more people in and thinking that he's finding more and more connections in a conspiracy, until he finally calls Admiral Adama to the stand, just like Picard is called. And Adama basically says, this is over. We're shutting this down. And he's like, you don't have the authority. He's like, look, I'm the commander of the last, I'm the last general in the military of humanity. And I'm just saying, we're stopping this right now. I don't care what happened, because this has gone way too far, and we can't do this to each other. And I think that like
it worked there is what you're saying.
Yeah, putting the power in the moral authority of the show, the captain, would have worked a lot better than Picard just kind of having to say, please stop this, please stop. And then eventually, we have to have the character who is strong and has authority go, don't talk about my dad. And then, oh boy, she looks tired. Like, yeah,
I like that conceptually though, of like being driven so to the point of madness over it that you kind of reveal yourself, Yeah,
but we don't ever spend any time with her, by herself. Like, we don't understand, other than maintaining her reputation as like being a Romulan hunter or just the child of that great guy. I don't. She just kind of blows up, and why would she?
Okay, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I've made my point, I guess.
Yeah, what you're saying. Yeah, this would be better if it was a Worf episode.
Gene Simmons is great. I love Gene Simmons, and apparently, like, she's a huge Trekkie, so they get this, classic Hollywood actress to do this, and she's like, "Oh, I love Star Trek," and they're like, "Whoa, shit!"
Yeah,
okay,
she's
cool.
great. She talks like no one talks anymore. I always love that.
Yeah, nobody talks that way. It's that old Mid-Atlantic accent. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, it's I just think like everyone's really good in this, and even the Betazoid guy and like her other assistant who is so smug when she like tells Picard he's got to report to the thing. Like, I don't know, everyone's really good in it. It's got kind of the classic. Sometimes I feel like, it is just like an issue in TNG where it's like Picard just gives a speech and that solves it all, Like, it's just like,
in this case, it literally solves it because it's his testimony, I guess, or at least his statement. The episode, it's funny that the episode is, in a lot of ways, really about the concept of, the other or othering people in our society. And this guy who has this Romulan heritage, but of course, there's tension with the Romulans. And so he goes as far as to lie. I guess if you fill out, there's got to be a race box, I guess, on your application.
Yeah, like
right?
there is now. Yeah.
There shouldn't be. They should have. You can't ask somebody their race, but he lies and says that he has Vulcan heritage instead of Romulan heritage, and then of course gets in trouble for that. And the fact that he felt like he had to do that, and then of course he was right to do that, because as soon as they find out that he's Romulan, they focus on that, to the detriment of everything else. There's this emphasis on. These aren't our people, or there's something wrong with you, and so you can't be with us now, and the other, even with Worf as well. Unfortunately, we go on and do another million episodes about how bad the Romulans are, and they're shifty, and it's, the lesson of the episode is not carried forward at all into the rest of the franchise. That's
fair. I mean, there's some humanizing Romulan stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I think it did okay though. I think it's a classic still. I'll still stand by it.
Humanizing Romulans, I guess. Even in Picard, it's just they're all terrible. The ones that aren't terrible are only not terrible because they literally are like nuns in a cult.
There's the refugees he's got
telling the truth all the time. Yeah,
the truth cult. Yeah. Okay, maybe not. Maybe they're all bad.
I think they could have saved the reveal of it just being an accident, the warp core explosion, for later, because the episode's not even halfway over, and Data and Geordi say this wasn't a bomb. And when Data and Geordi say something, like, it's true. So from there on, we know that the trial's bullshit. Everything that happens up to that point is just Gene Simmons, on a wild ride.
It feels like they want us to be like, someone stop this thing. Come on, Picard, get in there. Stop this. Like, we're supposed to be like, I feel like we're supposed to feel like held captive by it a little bit.
Yeah. And there's nothing that happens in like the late second act or early third act to really increase that tension, because it is just Captain Picard saying 3 or 4 times, please stop. And nothing happens. A wild ride with Gene Simmons could be very different. You could have a wild ride on a bicycle built for two with the actress Gene Simmons, or you could have a drug-fueled orgy with Gene Simmons from Kiss.
Yeah. That would be cool if they got him in Star Trek. He would make a good alien.
I guess. Apparently, he's not a great person either.
No, but...
She mentions roaches to Picard. Do they have roaches in the 24th century still?
But maybe after the bug thing.
Oh, maybe.
That she's referencing her slam dunk on the bugs that she did.
yeah. It's like roaches or throat bugs. Yeah.
I honestly love they mention that, because in that episode, a conspiracy or whatever, they present it like, oh man, they're coming. This is going to be some crazy thing. And then it's like a very Star Trek thing. It's like, no, she kind of like took care of that stuff.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, she cut that off. She took care of them all.
Now
she went around and shot everybody who had one. Took care of it.
I watched that.
I like that Riker's back in the lawyer chair. First of all, I know that they keep saying it's not a trial, and of course that is, not exactly true. It is a trial. So everybody should have a fucking lawyer. And when they finally get this kid a lawyer, it's Riker, who's
he's had experience.
0 for 1. He's had 2 losses now.
I think I saw someone like recently kind of make fun of that, right? Like that it's like everyone in Star Trek all of a sudden has like legal knowledge to be
has a law degree.
Yeah. And like people got upset with someone making fun of it, but it's like, come on, that is kind of funny, like.
See, if the Romulan kid he didn't want to go to school for 4 years. If he'd just gone to school, he would have got that law training and he'd be set to go.
Meanwhile, you see the Klingons, they're really prepared. Like when they have to have that one lawyer going up against Worf, like he's so sick. Like he is so prepared. Like it's kind of amazing that they even beat him.
And Worf's grandfather was a lawyer.
Right. The Klingons, they have a long legal history.
Yeah. I'm thinking about that Ron Canada episode. Not a great episode of DS9, but interesting idea. The fact that, Worf maybe did something that got a bunch of civilians killed. I actually think it would be more interesting if Worf did make a mistake that got a bunch of civilians killed, rather than like the solution to that episode, which is it's a Romulan plot where they had a commercial liner filled with like 2,000 frozen dead bodies, of people they had captured previously or something. It's like, what? Doesn't it just make more sense that in the heat of battle, somebody made the wrong call?
They try to give it a thing where they're like, well, he would have done it, and they
suppose
they give it that. And then all of a sudden it's like, it becomes at the very end, they put a little bow on it of like, you got to get used to the uniform. He's like, oh, wearing red or whatever. It's like, it's a little corny at the end.
Yeah. What do they do with spies? Let's say this guy they do have a spy. There's a Klingon spy at the beginning. So, like, what do you think happens to spies? They keep talking about how he's going to face punishment, but what does Starfleet or the Federation do with their spies? Does he go to the penal colony with Tom Paris?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's probably nice. We haven't seen really much form of, like, whatever they have for, like, imprisonment there other than that penal colony. I mean, presumably there just wouldn't be much or any at all, like it would be like,
I think it's almost impossible for you and I to imagine what a prison or detention center would be like that wasn't for profit. Pretty much all prisons have been since like the beginning of humanity. But assuming, like everything in Trek, that everything is perfect and great, I don't know. But I mean, like, how do you rehabilitate? I guess you're just punishing him, right? You can't rehabilitate him. There's nothing wrong with him. Yeah, you just hold on to him until you can trade him for like somebody the Romulans captured.
I think so. Yeah. You probably let him live a good life because I only see stuff like I think of like Suitor or whatever, where it's like, okay, well, we'll keep him and we'll try to teach him meditation and let him do his little projects and like try to actually rehabilitate the guy, which is like what I imagine. Like it
would be like if they were at home.
Yeah. That's what I imagine, like quote unquote prison, which I don't think it would even be prison. You know what I mean?
In TOS, they have a drug that makes you not crazy anymore. And they got to give it to Garth of Izar.
Yeah, that's probably what they just do is they probably have a spy drug they give. That reminds me, one of the craziest things in this episode is like the totally insane thing that it's like you're like they can put the documents, the secret files in their like DNA or something. Like that's like a Mission Impossible like plot, I guess.
Yeah.
I totally like they totally brushed that aside. I feel like everyone should be like, hold on now, that's crazy.
It's written into their DNA or whatever.
That's sweet. Yeah.
I guess it's just so crazy. Like it's something that I think if it happens in TNG, people will go, okay, yeah. But if they tried to do that in Discovery, people would be like, this isn't real. Come on. That's totally unbelievable.
Well, yeah, that's true. I think so. And I think it is it's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And I think what sells it in this is that they like explain it and everyone's just like, yeah. You know, but if they did it in like, you know, Discovery, like everyone would be like, I guess what I just said, they'd be like, no freaking way, that's crazy. You know,
they did it in Enterprise.
Oh, really?
In the first episode of Enterprise, Tiny Lister is the big Klingon guy, right? And he's trying to get back to Kronos because he's got like something encoded in his blood. And then when they bring him back to the chamber or whatever, they cut his hand and then they take the blood and get the message from it.
I could see it in like, I could totally see them bringing that back in like the Section 31 thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's a very, like I said, like spy thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't come here to crap on this episode, but it's an episode that I think should work better than it does. And I think it's an episode that can't work because it requires too much time and too much reliance on things that have already happened on a show that at this point is still struggling with having continuity and long form storytelling, you know, like they reference so many previous episodes of TNG, but they're all little, if you don't know about what happened in Data's day or whatever, it has no impact for you. And if it had happened like recently or in the last episode, you know, I think we would understand a little more how the tension in Starfleet has risen to a fever pitch because of the interference of the Romulans, because of the invasion of the Borg and all that stuff. But, you know, who knows what they were doing last week? You know, they were probably, you know, messing with Moriarty or something like that. Or, you know what? It was Cupid. Cupid was the episode that was before this. Yeah. So it's just a total jerk off.
Yeah,
it's
fun
like,
time.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
no, this is serious, you guys. This is serious.
That's another reason why I guess I think it would be better, have been better as like a Deep Space Nine or something, because that had the continuity of like, because there's a lot of like paranoia in that episode because of the Jem'Hadar and the changelings, and
I could totally see Sisko in the chair, you know, doing the same thing. You know, it's like, are we so blind to what? Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I could almost see him like, not like fully on board with it, but you know, like Pale Moonlight style, being like, well, we got to do what's got to be done, and then him being the Worf, you know what I mean? And like realizing like what's going on.
He's the one who's persecuting and prosecuting people, and then he hits that crisis and turns and is like, wait a minute, we have to shut this down.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, I'm glad that we got to fix this. I feel better about it now.
I didn't even come into this thinking it was like a bad episode. I think it's a classic, but
yeah, I think people assume that, but I think if people, you know, compared it to other TNG classic episodes,
it's not my favorite. No, definitely not.
Yeah. But it's got that good speech, and we always remember that.
Good speech.
And it's got a world-class Picard facepalm in it too.
Incredible.
This is the facepalm GIF. The other ones, JPEG does it, but this is the GIF.
Oh
one.
Yeah, that's the GIF. It's got a masterclass director.
Yes.
Would it be
and a classic Hollywood star?
I guess I want to go mention a thing I sort of said before, but like we can never get a character like this, but there should be totally like a Dick Cheney character.
You know, I would put that one guy who is a classic character actor, and I can't remember his name, but the guy who is the Beta Z, I'd put him up as a candidate for that.
Okay, he's got like a Rumsfeld vibe. Maybe he's pulling the strings. He's pulling the strings.
Yeah, he could be. I like how he manipulates Worf and gets him on board.
He manipulates him, yeah.
And as soon as it's, you know, it's expedient for him, he's like, what about this? Where was security? Your security officer's dad was working with the Romulans. It's like, do you have a death wish? Your head is detachable, you know, and Worf will do that for you if you want.
Maybe that guy like owns like an energy company or something that he's trying to get in the neutral zone.
Mining interests. Yeah. All right. Well, now we're just doing fanfic, but let's take a break for a word from our sponsors. We'll be back with more backtracking.
Hello, I'm Mikan Hana.
And I'm Caliban.
I'm a huge Sailor Moon fan. I've been a Moonie since the beginning. I've seen every episode, every movie. I've read all the manga. I love it.
I've got a head full of bad wiring, and I've never seen a single episode.
Do you want to join the wonderful world of Sailor Moon?
Okay. Enter laughing. It's hard to believe that was us. It feels like ancient history.
We recorded that a few minutes ago.
Ancient history, but now that I'm a Sailor Moon expert.
You're not an expert?
But I'm trying.
Every week on Sailor Noob, we talk about a new episode of the original Sailor Moon series.
It's all new to me.
And I'm a little more seasoned. I've been a Japanese language student and I've lived in Japan.
And you use your experiences to talk about the food, fashion, and culture of every episode of Sailor Moon.
What do you do again?
Share in the wonder of a classic anime series.
Good enough. Sailor Noob is a great companion for first-time watchers, and it is a fun hit of nostalgia for the experienced fan.
You can catch the show every Friday wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr, posting all things Sailor Moon.
One day I shall be the master.
Let's just get through this series first.
Okay. Okay, we're back. It's time to talk about the other Trek side of this equation. Star Trek never met a trial that it didn't like. As a long-running procedural in its own right, Trek is always looking to borrow or appropriate successful TV narrative structures to tell its own stories. From courts martial, to Data fighting for his rights, to Picard arguing against the devil, to Q putting all of humanity on trial, Trek has always used the backdrop of a courtroom to allow its characters to prove out their worthiness. But what if you're just a lower decker who don't know nothing? You're on the stand, and that alien prosecutor seems really mad. What do? Lower Decks tried to answer that question in its first season episode, Veritas.
These witnesses have been brought before you to speak the truth.
What's the difference between witnessing and just looking at something?
All right, everybody, listen up. This mission is highly classified. Do your thing!
What's my thing?
Don't want to draw any attention.
Hey, you've drawn my attention.
Send our friends a message.
What the hell are you doing?
You said send them a message. That means phasers.
It means to invite them to dinner.
No, it doesn't.
I come here today to say, Drumhead, not as good as people think it is. Veritas, better than I thought it was.
Yeah,
I remember the first time I saw this one and went, okay. But watching it again recently, I was like, I think this is a solid idea. And there are definitely some good bits in it. But I feel like there's a thing, I think, in TV writing where you have like a premise, before you break a story, you just have like a pitch. And sometimes you've got pitches that can't be broken and there's just nowhere that you can go with them. So you kind of make a mashup clip show out of them. And that's what this feels like to me. Rutherford having a hangover type experience, where he's constantly finding himself in places and he doesn't know how he got there. That could have been a whole episode. Tendi accidentally joining like a crack team of Starfleet commandos. That could have been a whole episode. All these, I feel like they waste these premises like by sticking them all together.
I can see that because I feel like the premise that it's like, it could almost have been like them recalling the same event.
Yeah, sure.
Like a Rashomon or whatever.
Right. But, I hope they know what Rashomon is. They probably remember A Matter of Perspective, so they'd be doing A Matter of Perspective.
Yeah. Which, they're... Like, I think they could have done that, and then it could have been more focused and less broad, but I don't know, a lot of those bits were pretty funny. Like, actually the sort of like Rutherford part was kind of funny that it's in such a small dose, because what's great about it is like he just like has these brief memories, so the fact that it is brief does kind of play into it. And I guess kind of the fact that like her mission was like secret, so like we don't really get the whole picture is also kind of like the point, but it's, I guess, to a lesser extent. Like some of those jokes are funny, like the censoring of it I actually liked in this one.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's true. Maybe that the fact that they can't be told as a half an hour story means that they fit best here. The censoring thing. So there's no rule book for comedy, except for there is totally a rule book for comedy. And Lower Deck seems to be working out of a different book sometimes. They will do things like it's just in this episode, they have a thing where they're all trying to figure out, I can't remember what it is exactly, but they're all doing something, and one character's like, well, blah, blah, A. Another character's like, blah, blah, B. And the third character's like, this is it, right? 1, 2, here comes the joke. And they're just like, blah, blah, C. And it's like, just because it comes third doesn't mean it's funny. This is where you put the funny thing you came up with. And they do that all the time. They have stuff that's just, have to have the cadence of a joke, but isn't exactly funny. So the thing with the beeps is like, I like the fact that they had, there's a censor beep for them saying like the F word. And then there's the redacted beep. The
redacted beep is what I really liked. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny because, and I don't know how this relates to the fact that it's a story being told and maybe like Tendi isn't like that good at like, keeping secrets. But so the guy's like, into the Yulin neutral zone. The beeps aren't covering the thing. No. But then later on, he's like, hey, you're fucking crazy or whatever. And then there's like censor beeps, and the censor beeps and the redacted beeps are getting like mixed up. And I don't know if that was what they intended or if it's just, boy, we got to have the guy say that she's fucking great here. So, if it's getting in the way of this other thing that they've crafted with the redacted beeps.
Oh,
like I never know if Lower Decks is, I always know when they think they're funny, but I never know like when I laugh, if they meant to make me laugh or not.
Yeah. I didn't think about that one. I do relate to like saying things like a joke and that makes it a joke. I think that's like a common thing now, especially with the whole, like, maybe less so in this. No, they have this style of humor in this, but like, the whole like, well, that happened. Like that happens in everything now.
Talk to the hand.
And it's like, that's not a joke. That's just not a joke. It's not even, it's like, it was like novel when like one character ever did it, and it was like, oh.
It's tough to write comedy, and I think there are a lot more comedy shows, and I don't think all of them have, comedy virtuosos writing for them, which is fine. But it's like when one half of your thing is comedy, something that the reason I think the show works and it's popular is because I think people's standards are super low. I'm not trying to be.
I'm sorry.
I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I was looking around Facebook recently and I was collecting some of people's responses to stuff that happens on Lower Decks. And I don't know if you remember a recent episode. I think you might have been on Discoverage for this episode, but there's a joke where somebody, has a ship is blown up because they put a tractor beam on it, and they're like, "What did you do?" And it's like, "It was on the lowest tractor factor." Now, tractor factor's like that's like a breathe out through your nose, like that's funny, but it's not hilarious. And this person's like 5 laughing emojis, skull. I die every time. It's like, are you really like rolling on the ground from Tractor Factor?
I didn't know for sure that was a joke either. I thought, is that? I literally thought, is that a lore term? Like is that like a Cochrane? And I just didn't know it.
That's yeah. I think it's fairly self-evidently funny, but no, that's true. Like with all the lore and technobabble, you don't know. There's another one where somebody was referencing the first episode of the season where Mariner is in her training program, her Cardassian interrogation program. And we all get what it's referencing. It's the chain of command. And somebody's like, when Brad said to Mariner, they kept asking me about lights, I almost died.
Yeah.
And then somebody else comments, best line ever.
Ooh.
No,
yeah.
That is the joke. In fact, that's just a tag on the joke, which is the presentation of the fact that she's, in the thing that we recognize. Like are people really like pissing themselves over this?
It's similar to going Drumhead, like it's...
Well, I will stand up for Drumhead.
Okay.
Because it comes at the end of the episode when he is, and first of all, it is a sham trial because it turns out it's not a trial.
Which is actually a great twist because I feel like they do a lot of episodes. Like they do an episode where it's like, O'Brien, you're being charged by the Cardassians. And,
yeah.
Oh, so-and-so.
It's a fake trial.
Yeah. And then like finally it's like, what if it just wasn't at all?
Yeah. And this is his speech. Boimler, is the fuck up. And so this is his speech where he's finally had enough and he's going to get up there and he's going to make his stand and he gives his great speech. And then in his own way, he punctuates it by going, Drumhead.
It's like him spiking it a little bit.
Yeah, right. And it turns out that like that made everything completely worse. Like I think all of that works. Something else that I like, let's talk about good stuff. Something else I like about the episode is it sticks with its premise, which it often strays from. These are the lower deckers. They're not supposed to know anything. And yet Mariner is always saving the entire ship. She's, the main character of the Cerritos, not just the show. And I like the fact that they are useless in this particular situation because they're the lower decks people. Like even if it was a trial, they're putting the bridge crew on trial. And so they call in like the scrubs and go, tell us what you know. And they're like, we don't know anything. Like we never know anything. Here are some 3 weird things that happened to us because we have nothing to like offer you in this trial.
Yeah.
That's the premise of the show. And they mind that for comedy. And I like that.
They do that in a lot of episodes. Like I like them. Wasn't there a more recent one where they're trying to figure out how the chief of security like came back to life?
Yeah,
like that's
right.
That's funny to me that it's
and there's just some secret amongst the the characters, the main characters, who they're like, there's a way that you come back.
That works.
But you don't know about it.
Yeah, that works well because it also like is that premise of like so much of this stuff does happen on Star Trek, but like just imagine being a random guy on the ship.
Yeah,
and, like what happened to Data this week? Like
just
Moriarty is here. Okay,
just a guy in a scant who's like, what? Yeah.
I like the drumhead thing, and it makes sense. It makes sense for him to kind of do it because he would be aware of it. But I think we sort of referenced it earlier. But like, I still do think it's stupid when all the characters are like arguing over Trek lore. Like that gets on my nerves a little bit. Like,
well, that's lower decks.
It makes sense. Like, I think just let Boimler be the like they're all nerds in a way,
right?
But like,
why isn't one character like that, and then you can satisfy that for the audience? Because I guarantee the intended audience for this show loves that shit. But then the rest of the characters can be like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like a space seed? What? That's a title of an episode.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be in the log." Does Kirk? I guess Kirk might say that he's they're planning.
It is weird that she just says he was a space seed.
He was a space seed. This is a joke.
That's not a joke. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I know you want to talk about good.
Well, we can do both. Here's a bad. Kurtwood Smith.
I know,
classic actor and a Trek guest star is in this episode. And this episode for me, came near the end of the first season where I was reeling from not really liking or feeling like I was getting what I was promised with the series Lower Decks. But it proved something to me. It's one thing to have, Tawny Newsome, the main character, who is a voice actress and podcaster, or Jack Quaid, the son of, Dennis Quaid, be the actors who play these hyperactive characters, and that's just their take on it, and that's fine. I don't like the fact that everybody's screaming and talking at a mile a minute, but that's fine. But then you bring Kurtwood Smith on, and his character screams and talks at a mile a minute. So clearly they are being directed to do that, and I wish they weren't being directed to do that, but this is where we are.
I can see where it's just like they just know that's like the comedy setting a little bit.
Yeah, like, the audience, they'll turn off. They'll get bored if we don't keep this going.
Yeah.
It's like, have you seen the Drumhead?
Maybe we're just old,
I guess. But it can't keep accelerating, right? At some point, there'll be a reaction, and then, just furtive looks will be comedy for 10 years, right? Like, there's got to be, right? Ultimately, it can't just be somebody, Henry Rollins just screaming in your ear for half an hour. It can't be a comedy show, right? We can't accelerate to that level. Am I being too cerebral about this?
No, I think there is also sort of like what I said with the Boimler thing. Like, I feel like there's got to be a balance, Like, the way the show currently works is that, like,
everybody's the same character.
Everybody's kind of the same character, yeah.
Yeah.
They have their own distinct things, but like, the way it sort of goes about for me watching it now is kind of like, I'm sort of on one setting the whole time, and I'm just kind of like, that's funny. Oh, that's not, yeah.
Yeah. What's frustrating is that they really do land some good lines that are really like right up the Trek alley. Sometimes, and I wish it could be that way all the time. I think that for a joke like, what is Tendi afraid that she's getting in trouble for? You know, it has to be something Star Trek, and it has to be something kind of like forgivable and kind of petty, right? And so she's like, I was replicating ice. I'm like, what? like you're what? You're replicating ice? Like is the modern context like, oh, I just, I go to the ice machine and I got a bucket. And it's like, oh, it's free. I can have all the buckets I want. Like, I think I can see how that was constructed, but like the end is like, it's, not really funny. I did like when they're called as witnesses and she's like, we're not witnessing. We were just looking at something. What's the difference between that and witnessing?
Yeah, she had some cool moments, and they kind of set up, like, first it's like unreliable narrator where she like kicks everyone's ass or whatever, but then we find out later like that she does like kick ass in like the second season. She's like an ex-pirate or whatever, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah. Her getting sucked into this this covert ops team, which really I know that sometimes Starfleet does that, but it seems rather aggressive for the Federation. But I did like the fact that ultimately all of the disparate Rashomon storylines all did fit together.
Yeah.
And the episode makes this point, like, or tries to. The captain's like, well, we should be more honest with you guys in the future, because if you had known that the 3 different things that you were all involved in all were leading to this thing with the guy in the party, then we wouldn't be in this situation where we made the guy really mad. And then, of course, they flip back on that immediately because the captain gets mad at them and kicks them out.
Yeah, and that doesn't change. But that's kind of what I expect.
Though.
Yeah.
And totally. Then Q shows up because Star Trek.
Yeah, that was a little much. And like...
You know how Q makes you dress in a chess piece costume and then he has a talking soccer ball challenge you? You know how Q does that?
Yeah. Q loves playing games, and he like the whole like I feel like it's a very like shallow kind of. It's like not even like shallow in it like we're making a joke way, but like just that interpretation of him, and like also when they mention Picard and they're like, oh, he's always like reading Shakespeare and making wine. It's like,
yes, Picard always makes wine.
That feels like a first pass. Like that sounds like a joke I would say.
What about like hating kids? He's always reading Shakespeare and hating kids or something like that. Like it's just like, what's a list of things? Give me a list of things. We've got 2 minutes left to finish this.
Yeah, I at least would expect. I don't know. I would expect with them like these hyper specific references they make to like, come up with something better than that. Like I feel like it needed another pass or something on that one.
I actually don't think that they're specific enough. I think that they probably get filtered for being too specific, because even your I guess the diehard fans would get anything, but like, your average Star Trek fan who's seen a lot of the episodes, maybe not all of them, not multiple times, wouldn't necessarily get a reference to Drozine and the Cloud Minders or something like that,
But I think even if you don't, like, say you don't remember Roga Danar, you'd be like, oh, I get that they're talking about a guy.
How could they not remember Roga Danar? But yes, continue.
Like, I think you would get that they're talking about, like, a guy, and then you'd, like, appreciate it. Where,
But, like, Picard, making wine and drinking Shakespeare is aiming way too low. Like, that doesn't clear the net.
Yes, right. Like, can we at least, like, maybe they could have referenced one of his encounters with Picard, maybe like Damjat or something. I don't know. Nausicaans. Not that he's doing that stuff, but I don't know. Like, reference something.
Yeah, get out of here, Q. I don't want to get stabbed in the heart.
Even their even their like reference machine that it is, like, it's not even that great of a job all the time of doing that, but.
Yeah, I think that's, here we are litigating all the entirety of Lower Decks.
It was a good episode, actually. It was
yeah, well, I guess I don't have much to say. I mean, it's an okay episode, but I think you're right about that. And I think that what bothers me about the show is that I think that you absolutely, it's not the references themselves. I think you absolutely could have a show that's almost totally references and yet is constructed in a way that, is funnier and gets more of a reaction than just what they're doing. Like they want to be a reference machine comedy show, and they kind of want to be like animated TNG, and I feel like they're not doing either of those really well. And I feel like the show's at its best when they veer to the left or right more.
I kind of feel like what the show, like potential things the show could be, like already exist, sort of. Like, well, like one, it wants to be Rick and Morty, but like Rick and Morty, I haven't really watched a lot of it, but what I have seen, it's like a sci-fi show that's funny. And I'm like, okay, I think they already did that. And then I think of like Futurama, because Futurama had a lot of like Star Trek inspired plots, even like a explicit reference. I'm like, I don't know. I think they could have already done that. I think they should have maybe done something new, or like not even new, but maybe a different, like something that hasn't been sort of like close to Trek before. I think of a show like Venture Brothers, you know, where it's like, it's a parody of something, but it also is its own thing, you know?
Well, that's an interesting mention by you, because both Venture Brothers and Rick and Morty both have at their core the emotion of like sadness and regret, and also arrested development, you know, like adults acting like children, not being able to get over themselves and get out of it. And you can't, the old Roddenberry specter comes back. Like, you can't do that in a Star Trek show, because ultimately it needs to be positive, right? Ultimately everybody is doing okay and is good, and we're all going to make the right decisions ultimately. And so you can't have a situation where, you know, Rick does all the things he does because of, you know, his deep pain and pathos. And the same thing with Venture Brothers. Like, the characters are the way they are because they can't get over the fact that they are not great anymore. You know, they're not boy adventurers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's Star Trek, they'll always be moving forward. Things are always going to get better.
Yeah.
A guy's got to slip on a banana peel to get some comedy here, right? Somebody has to get hurt.
But yeah, I just feel like that would work really well for the show, because it is so looking back, you know, and that's, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that it would hurt the show at all, or Trek, to try that.
My other thing that I've suggested before is, I think just like the animated series style, where it's just like you just commit to these buck wild premises and just not play it totally straight, but just like take it so seriously, even though it's ridiculous, and like that would be funny, you know, and that would be fun. Where it's like, yeah, there's like, I don't know, like the mission. I think of that Mission Impossible episode or whatever, where it's
yeah,
there's like that screaming
or
guy,
the one where we're all shrunk down, and we have to operate the ship.
Giant Spock, yeah, like just go nuts.
Fuck you, Lower Decks. You guys killed Giant Spock.
Yeah, boo. Anyway, it was an all right. I actually kind of like
that.
The show.
That, you know what? No, I take it back. Fuck Lower Decks. that alone just shows that, like, why not have Big Spock on, you know, or like Big Neelix or something. Have Ethan Phillips do, you know, just why not like playfully reference that, and instead of just somebody saying Big Spock or Spock 2, using it as fodder for your show, and then also sending up how ridiculous it is. It's like, why is he 50 feet tall? I don't know. The guy had Caecilius was short. He had a Napoleon complex or something, so they made the clones tall. Like, you could do something with that. Instead, they're just reference, and also like kind of mean-spirited reference, showing that we don't understand, you know, the idea of whimsy that we're supposed to have in this show,
right?
Outside of our references. Let's do the exchange already.
Okay, we can do it. We can move.
No,
on.
I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say it does make me think of like I know they reference it all over, but it makes me specifically think of like that Star Trek Futurama episode where it's like they literally are like held captive by like something that you would have encountered in the show, but also like it's a fan of the show, and it's like also like kind of tearing apart the show and like making fun of it in a way.
Yeah,
like,
but they're punching down on Star Trek though.
Yeah, that's one. Like, obviously, like I don't think like Paramount or whoever wants to do that, but I also think a lot of fans might reject that too.
I don't know. The examples I gave, I think fans will give whatever you.
They'll take anything. Yeah, we're so starved for.
As long as it doesn't star a black female, unfortunately. Okay, look, we're gonna do a technological exchange.
We can't do this.
We gotta do it, and something that we haven't done this previously, but I think that this would make it fun, is if we roll twice, because we've got 2 Trek properties here, and we can't really add something unless we add more transporters to the other Trek thing. So why don't we give both Trek episodes a separate handicap?
Okay,
right?
That works.
Yeah. So we've got a list of Star Trek technologies for our technological exchange. Here is the list. It is phasers, holodecks, tricorders, transporters, warp drives, replicators, communicators, shields, advanced medical technology, and androids. And we roll randomly and we subtract one of those from the episode. So first we'll start with the Drumhead. If we get rid of transporters from the Drumhead, how is the Drumhead different? An episode that is a bottle episode
and
that never leaves the ship.
Oh.
Okay.
Transport someone, right? Well, the Admiral might have had a hard time getting on board.
I suppose. Yeah, no, she transports on board. So she can take a shuttle instead.
Yeah. I mean,
every week. Do this to
how
ourselves.
Are they getting this guy? Yeah. How are they going to get him out of there?
Yeah.
Oh, they talked about in the log. They're like, recently this guy was on board. Don't they say like, maybe he transported out? I don't know. Like one of the guys they thought he was like feeding information to. It might be easier for them to monitor people coming and going from the ship.
That's true. I think that. So this guy has, he's got extra protein in his blood, which I feel like that might be a problem, but that's how he's moving the code, right? The code is translated into amino acid strings, which create hopefully inert proteins that he then puts in his blood. And he can just pull that out later and like decode it, I guess. So he probably is not going to stand up to a medical scan. You know, if he breaks his arm and Dr. Crusher starts looking at him, she's going to know something's wrong. But wouldn't that also happen with a transporter? If the transporter is taking you apart, it's probably programmed, its biofilters programmed to look out for weird stuff so you don't bring Rigelian flu on board. And so maybe a transporter would pick up the extra stuff in his blood. So, but there are no transporters, right? So if there is no transporters at all anywhere in the Federation, then this could be like the main way that spies transport secret information.
This is like Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like this is
carriers or whatever.
This is how you do it, and there's really no way to tell unless you get up close with somebody and you medical tricorder them. And so you could have like an arms race of like code breaking where we're using amino acids. Oh, we're using protein. We're using RNA strands.
Whoa. I think we always find a way to like pitch our own like unique sci-fi world.
Well, we kind of have to because we're changing the world of Star Trek as it is. So maybe we're looking at a universe that is justifiably experiencing the paranoia that we see Sati and her officers show in this. Like it's a new Cold War, a new future Cold War where everybody is delivering secret communiques and plans for weapons and warp drive schematics in their bodies, in their blood.
Yeah, I can see scenes like
it's in your blood.
There would be like stuff like how they do with the changelings, or like in The Thing where they do the blood tests.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
yeah,
they're that tense moment of like, we found something that will make the documents explode.
The second you come on board, you cut your hand into the dish there, and we got to check to make sure you're not carrying anything. And then you could also, to counterintelligence this, you could like capture somebody and you could inject something in them that would degrade the message, or possibly change it, give misinformation.
Oh. I could also see like, there could be like they're carrying the message, but if something goes wrong, like they can flip the switch and take them out.
Yeah, the message, the proteins become active and then eats away their brain or something like that. I like our Johnny Blood Mnemonic.
Johnny Blood Mnemonic. Again, this Section 31. There's so much. I guess we've shown so much you could do with this,
Yeah.
Even with transporters, maybe there's like, we found ways to like subvert that or something.
They're going to have to really, let's pretend to dodge into something else. They're going to have to really work to make the Section 31 series have, if it's going to have like, you know, spy gadgets and stuff, they're going to have to make it real. They're going to have to go to another paradigm, because we've already seen Giorgio use Section 31 gadgets in TOS times with her facial holograms and her like smart guns and things, and invisibility screens. So like in the 24th, if they've had 100 years to work on that future stuff, like what do they have in the future? They're going to have smart blood.
Smart blood. I love it. I honestly love the smart blood.
You could cut yourself and then it pours out and the blood forms into a gun and then you can shoot a guy.
Whoa, yeah, it could be like Terminator type stuff.
Yeah, got T-1000 blood.
Blood warriors.
Yeah, blood fighters. Okay, all right, let's lock that in. Okay, now we go on to Lower Decks.
Success.
And we randomly select a number on our Lower Deck scale, and the answer is communicators. If there are no communicators in the world of Lower Decks... what happens?
Well, there's the part where they're talking to the bug lady. They're communicating with her, right?
That's true.
That got me thinking about. I like how they referenced like these. Like that was a good reference of how like insane some of these cultural interactions are. Of like they're offended by like politeness or whatever. Like that is so silly in like Trek in general. But I love it.
They do have that in Trek, but it's weird that almost every episode Lower Decks goes to that well.
It does. And, okay. I don't remember.
Yeah. Like, you know, the very first episode. Well, anyway, just like recently, like, the Dupplers, you know, like the Dupplers, when they get, when they have bad feelings, they clone themselves or whatever, they split. And so it becomes like the Tribbles. Like we have to stop these guys because they're going to fill up the entire ship. And then the answer is like yelling at them when they feel bad feelings or mad feelings, they rejoin. And so it's like, why would the Federation even talk to these people? Why would they bother? Why would they want, you know, this is such a volatile thing. Why wouldn't they find a cure for them? Well, obviously it's a goof for a show, but there's that, there's, you know, the very fact that the Pakleds have gone from like asking for spare change to becoming like bloodthirsty warriors. Like,
I think
feel
that's
like
funny.
Lower Decks almost always, you know, has an element of like, well, these people wear hats on their butts instead of their heads. And so what are we going to do now?
But that happens. So
it does happen.
It happens
does, but there are
lot.
plenty of times. There are plenty of times in Star Trek, especially TNG, where a green guy walks on and he's just like, you know, he's just the guy that we're going to talk to this week. There isn't anything weird about his culture or whatever.
That's true. But I guess on there that it's like we got to cut straight to the jokes, you know.
Yeah. So no communicators, no communication technology at all, I guess. So how do we communicate with other ships? This is one of those things where you think, oh, big deal, but how does any communication happen?
Yeah, how do you do covert Romulan ops?
That would be tough. That would be really tough. How do you have to, like, every time that you want to talk to somebody, do you have to like dock your ships, you know, or beam over or something like that and talk with somebody?
What if they just had like space telegram?
Just like long wires through space.
Yeah. Or like subspace, like they can't like have any like vocalizations, but they're like, we found a way to like make frequencies.
So like like Morse code, or like a semaphore. You could have flags on your ship, like they did in the old days. It'd be like nautical ship. It'd be like Navy ships. You know, you can't communicate. You can flash lights to each other, but you can't like just call somebody.
That'd be cool if that was like a guy's job to like stand out on the ship and like wave flags,
run up a flag, of truce. Yeah, it'd be like Horatio Hornblower in space.
Yeah, which is the premise. I think if they made the ships like shaped like old nautical ships, that'd be cool too.
If they were just flying
space
through space,
pirates,
like a galleon,
yeah, sure.
There's a role playing game and also just a property called Space 1889, which
oh my God.
which is like that. And the premise is that it takes all of the now disproven theories about how space works, like the idea that, when scientists figured out that like, oh, light and energy is like a wave, but if it's a wave, like a wave in the water, it must have a medium that it goes through. There's no way that it could just go through emptiness. There's no sound in a vacuum. And of course, they didn't realize that the fabric of the universe is the medium. So they thought that space must be filled with like an indetectable liquid called ether. And so based on that idea, in Space 1889, like you can get ships with wood that's, lighter than air and sail to Mars, like in your ship.
It's like fluidic space.
Yeah, it's like fluidic space. Sweet. Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay, so did we answer it?
Yes.
Is there something about the horn that makes you tell the truth, or is it just, to respect our culture, you
forgot about the horn. Yeah.
You must speak truth into the horn? Because I think everybody basically does. You'd think that Mariner would take this opportunity to lie about, what happened, but she's pretty truthful.
You don't want to get the eels.
You don't want the eels of contempt.
The eels of contempt. That was funny. I think all the like revelations of like what was really happening were all pretty funny bits, Like the one guy who seems like the judge or whatever is just like waiting to set up a birthday party.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah.
Or like
what about that guy? He's a total judge.
He's just like
no, I'm just here to
waiting.
Set up a birthday party.
They're in like the beam of celebration. That was kind of funny.
Yeah. Although when they hang her over the eel tank and then it ends up she doesn't go in, she's like, yeah, not today, eels. It's like, why are you taunting eels?
Yeah.
This is another spot where it's like, a joke goes here.
Yeah, that's a very, that happened. It's similar
yes.
it makes me laugh a little bit because I feel like that's something that's like funny. It would be funny if like my friend said it like spur of the moment, but it's not a TV joke, Same thing when they're in the beam and Paul Scheer's like, it's a good beam, and like that's
I love this beam.
It's kind of funny, I guess, but not below what I'm looking to get out of this. Had to get one more in there.
That's the thing. Like, I've never been in a comedy writer's room. But I have, palled around with my friends telling jokes. And I would imagine the difference is you can crack each other up, but then you can go, okay, but seriously though, like that won't work in this situation. Are they just like cracking each other up and then going, write that down. And then it's like, take that, eels.
Yeah, I can't pretend to know because I'm not that funny, but yeah,
that's an absolute lie.
Oh, thank you.
You have to speak the truth.
I think, what was the one? Oh, the Picard reference earlier. Like that hinted to me that like they're not getting many future passes on it.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just made really quickly.
I think so. Low effort. Or maybe not even low effort.
Now we have to start our own comedy TV show so we can speak about this with authority.
And then we'll get... I would love to try. I think I would go pretty horribly, but
Johnny Bloodfighter.
Johnny Bloodfighter.
But it's funny though. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's a cool. I think we've come up with enough. If we got to listen back to all our exchanges where we come up that each one could be its own like unique episode.
Get all of our pitches ready. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all pretty cool.
Well, should we tell people what's coming up on the next episode of Backtracking?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty excited. We're doing another JCVD movie. We're doing Time Cop, and it's you don't sound excited. Or are you excited?
I am.
Okay. I can tell what kind of that was. This is apparently related to the Voyager episode Relativity, because there's some time copping in it. We'll see.
It is literally about a Time Cop premise, but also there are some explicit connections to Time Cop. And, of course, it's a dumb but fun movie, and it's kind of a dumb but fun episode, too.
Yeah. And he's going to be our new Tom Cruise, where we just do a lot of, like, movies of his.
I think we could probably, if we work hard enough, we can find a Star Trek episode for every Van Damme film.
Is there any tournament arcs in
Worf does get involved in a pit fighting situation when he gets captured by the Jem'Hadar. They have him fight every day. He fights Jem'Hadars.
Okay, here we go.
Yep. All right, Bloodsport, here we come.
Sweet.
Well, that's it for this week's Backtrekking. Thanks for listening, and if you like the show, tell a friend, and follow us at Backtrekking on Twitter, and tell us, too, what you think we should look at in future episodes. We're always looking for suggestions from listeners, so let us know right on Twitter at Backtrekking. Gooey, tell the people where they can find you online.
I'm on Twitter. I'm at GUIFame.
And I'm on Twitter at KA1IBAN, and you can find all these shows on the Just Enough Trope Network at Just Enough Trope on Twitter. That's it for us this week. We'll see you soon, and until we do, keep on trekking.